Hello, welcome back to the L1 show. Today is the 20th of February, and we're doing government and security stories to start your week. A show that boldly asks, where is my cursor? And I feel like I'm going crazy. That's not a question.
It's a little cursor. It's easy to miss.
Yeah.
We're far away from the screen. We're probably losing eyesight rapidly.
As we lose our minds, yeah.
But one woman who probably isn't losing her mind, because she is, I would say she's at the peak of her career, right?
Yeah.
She's out there just ripping and tearing, as they say. And she's going after these big companies.
FTC Chair Lena Khan, stop monopolies before they happen.
I'm imagining her as the Doom guy. Just, with a shotgun.
This is a contender for most common sense headline of 2024. She talks about how, once these companies get entrenched, it's basically impossible to dislodge them. And you just keep reading it. It's like, yeah, we've been saying this for years.
Do you
Got
think,
termites in here.
do you think AI would refuse to make a picture of her as the Doom guy ripping up Tim Cook with a chainsaw?
Probably.
Yeah,
Because
probably
it's
too violent.
specific people.
Fortunately, we're getting good at being able to run uncensored models thanks to the open source nature of the internet.
Which will soon be illegal.
Yeah.
And it still probably has something to do with that. But the FCC is also up in arms, and they are looking at something that Apple did that everybody kind of looked at and was like, really, Apple? During an antitrust, really? This is what you're going to do?
FCC commissioner wants to investigate Apple over Beeper Mini shutdown. I think this is good because the more that you look into what Apple is actually doing, the more rotten it becomes in Denmark.
I feel like we barely look into them, and it's obvious. I mean, you just read a few headlines, it's like, yeah, that sounds like antitrust.
Every week we have a lot of apologists, though. They're like, Apple invented the sun. They should be able to do whatever they want because they bring us light. And it's like,
Even if they did invent the sun, they don't own it.
But if Moderna has a team that's astroturfing 24/7, what do you think Apple's got?
I just assume everything is not real on
that's
the
the
internet.
brilliant thing about Apple is that these people are doing it for free.
That's true. They've got a cult.
This channel, not real. This is all fake.
It's going to be amazing, though, once Apple is going to stumble over something innocuous and it's going to pierce the veil, and then everybody is going to notice the emperor is wearing, nothing, and it will collapse rapidly. But I don't know what that is going to be.
Have you observed American politics?
Not
'Cause
willingly.
The emperors have been naked for some time. No one seems to really...
Not only is the emperor naked, he hasn't bathed in quite some time.
It's an assault on every sense.
So this is kind of an obscure rule, a very broad one. I'm sure Apple's lawyers aren't too afraid of this, but it's nice to see, I suppose, especially if you're a Beeper Mini customer.
The thing that really crossed the line is when you owned an Apple product, and it's like, I'm going to use Beeper Mini on my non-Apple products, but I'm going to route my traffic through my Apple product so that everything continues to work. That probably crossed the line.
That's what he's saying. They degraded the functionality maliciously.
Yeah.
And because you were just trying to use their service in a way they didn't like. And this one is one of many decisions that we get from these kind of regulators where it's like, really, we didn't already have this? I mean, this one seems kind of obvious, doesn't it? Because we have it everywhere else.
FCC gets tough. Telcos must now tell you when your personal info is stolen. Unfortunately, this doesn't affect disclosure when they just sell your info, which is more often than not. It's like, we'll sell it to you for a penny. It's like, those people didn't steal it. We paid them to do network security testing. Yeah, that's it. See also T-Mobile.
And here's one, I swear we've seen this from like 8 different governments and even the U.S. government in various different ways. People still try to fight it. And they get the same answer every single time, which is a basic answer of just say it's you. It counts if you just say it's you.
U.S. Patent Office confirms AI can't hold patents. The subhead is, but if you use AI to come up with something, that's you. You can patent that.
Why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah, that makes no sense. Why would I want OpenAI or whatever company to be involved in that? Why? That's absolutely bizarre.
You think that's OpenAI getting people to float that out there to try to create that
Maybe.
precedent?
It'd be like Craftsman trying to own your house because
You use their tools, yeah.
Well, think about some of the software licenses.
Think about Apple.
That's what they want.
That's literally the Apple store. It's like, you used our hammer. We own you.
And this is one we've seen before as well, but we get a few more details here, and we see just how extreme it is, and also what a sweet job. Because all these dudes were in the Navy doing various, Navy type jobs. Now they're full time doing this.
U.S. military is embedded in the gaming world. Its target teen recruits. The more that I read this, the more I was. This is probably. We're on a slippery slope, and we're already like 3 steps down the slope. This is like 3 or 4 steps down the slope. But you know what's coming next is diversion programs from prosecutors. It's like, well, we're going to put you in jail for 4 years, or we can keep your record clean, but you've got to go join the Navy or the Army.
That puts a little bit of risk, though, in the quality of
your soldier,
servicemen. Yeah, because you're going to take people who you're saying, well, on one hand, we need you to be completely away from society. On the other hand, we need you to have a gun.
Yeah, didn't Russia do that? Like, to not great results on their front with Ukraine?
Yeah, but those people weren't ever, like, in the homeland. They literally just put them on a bus and was like, see you later.
I thought they did some, like, prison programs like that where they put prisoners out on the front line.
That's what I'm saying is, though, like, once they let them out, they didn't let them out into Russia.
Oh, yeah.
They just immediately exported them. I guess we could do that, too. We got plenty of bases around the world. And if you do join that program in the dark future, you can bet that they're going to take all of your personal information, and you can bet that they won't be able to protect it.
U.S. military notifies 20,000 of data breach after cloud email leak. It turns out that the cloud email server depended on some other server for security. So if you knew the IP address of the server, because it was on the public internet, it would just give you everything.
Good job.
It's like, how does this even happen? Like, I know the government contracting is weird and backwards, and like, just getting the damn thing to go through MOCAS is impossible, and then this happens.
I'll tell you how it happens. You can't get enough volunteers for your all-volunteer military force, so you keep lowering the standards.
This is probably a contractor, though.
Maybe. And we also have this is another follow-up. We talked about this before, but now we see that the government is putting some money behind this, and this is probably good for like disaster recovery, but maybe not that good for current service.
The U.S. government makes a $42 million bet on open cell networks. The Open RAN dream stays alive.
So you can mix and match your cell equipment. Currently, you cannot do that. You must commit to a vendor.
What a future that would be, though. Like, we actually do have the technology. Imagine today that you could have an open network, and it would allow anybody on the open network, but your device has to try to find an encrypted route to your provider. There really isn't very much risk in that. If your device knows the keys of your provider that is actually going to let you join the network, and it can just use the radio waves to find whatever. In the case of a disaster, citizens or local governments could set up a hotspot, and it's like, oh, yeah, I can roam onto this. And if my phone can get an encrypted path back to somewhere that's up, then it'll continue to work. That would be a great resilient design.
The risk is to certain lines going up.
And we can't have that.
But we can have this, which is massive, massive reductions of your freedom to protect the kids.
TechNerd's headline is Senator Blumenthal pretends to fix the KOSA, and it's a lie. I love this. I love that TechNerd is sort of doing what we do, noticing it's like, wow, this is just lies. And they're calling it just lies. This is amazing.
Lying.
And
Quote.
also, it also goes out of its way to point out some of the disingenuous statements where it's just like this person is obviously being misleading when they make these kinds of statements, because in this context, what they said here doesn't jive with what they said 30 seconds later. So they're being deliberately disingenuous, or they understand what's going on about as well as a potato.
The big change had to do with attorneys general being able to decide what is harmful. Literally, the attorney general of each state gets to arbitrarily decide what is harmful online to a child and prosecute based on that. That was obviously a really big loophole. He changed it just a little bit. And there were some other things in there that were horrific that we missed the first time we talked about this, and other people pointed out. And once again, they nudged them just a little bit. Just shaved off enough so that you could fit it in. It's going to be terrible. And New York is they're on this bandwagon where The kids are messed up. We don't know for sure why, but a lot of people think it's social media, so they're just going with it.
New York City lawsuit accuses social media companies of fueling youth mental health crisis. It's definitely not the world we find ourselves in. Definitely not that.
Now, he claims that he's not trying to ban social media, but he wants some sensible controls.
Sometimes you just gotta log off, you know.
Except kids don't. I mean, I think they pass out with the phone falling on their face and then they wake up and grab it. They're messed up.
Aren't we all?
I'm not on social media and I'm still messed up, so
You're on
I'm
YouTube.
in control.
On YouTube right now.
Well, that's true. I do watch videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube's kind of a weird in between social media.
Because you don't have to be social on it, though it does have an algorithm.
I almost never comment on YouTube. I only comment on channels about cats.
Just say good cat video.
Yeah.
That's a good cat.
Or request things that I would like to see with the cats.
Or occasionally post pictures of the cats to X and or Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a video. I got to edit 2 videos together, but there was a moth on the ceiling last night,
Oh.
and Toast was just screaming at it.
Come down here, you coward.
New York and New Jersey, amazingly, they did not have snow for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, what happened there? But they
We know
did
what
get
happened.
quite a lot of snow recently. And because I guess it had been so long, they were not prepared for that.
New York City fails its controversial remote learning snow day quote-unquote test, public school chancellor says. So it's like, hey, it's a snow day. You should still come to school. No one did.
No, it was online.
Yeah. I mean, no one
A
showed up.
non-traditional
No.
instruction day is what they call it.
Well,
right
they
now.
didn't show up because IBM servers failed immediately. And then they called IBM and they were like, what's going on here, bro? And they were like, all right. And they like allocated more resources and it was fine.
But at that point, like, if I'm the student and I see, like,
Yeah.
I've made my honest effort and then it's not there, I'm going to be like, well, I'm going to go play in the snow.
Yeah, the day's pretty much shot at that point.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? And over in California, they are figuring out that our youth aren't really picking up on the sciences. They're really languishing. So how do you fix that? Of course, you demand that they do certain things through the school system.
Mark Berman and Superintendent of Public Instruction Thurmond unveil AB 2097 to guarantee access to computer science for all California students.
So it's kind of like the foreign language requirement. You have to have, I think it was 2 semesters of computer science to graduate.
It's interesting to me how little of it there actually is. Like, I think I've talked about this before. Some of my younger cousins, I asked them, I was like, when did you guys take a typing class or like a computer class? And a lot of them, the answer was no. Not until they got all the way to high school and it was an elective.
If you're doing a purely blue collar job, let's say you're doing like maintenance on buildings, you're going to have some sort of scheduling app.
Yeah.
And
Or like you might need to write a resume. Like you should know how to type.
If you're driving a garbage truck, have you seen the inside of a garbage truck lately? There's all kinds of tablets and all sorts of stuff.
Make sure you didn't pick up an old lady in the,
Oh, yeah, and crush them.
I don't know if the high school can prepare you for that. It's on the job training.
That might be motivational too. Like if you have high school students that have to do vocational stuff, and it's like this is a reasonable job for you. If college doesn't feel like it's for you,
Our school had a whole building that was just devoted to like, it was computer science and like auto repair and machine work, like kind of stuff where you work more with your hands.
yeah, I think that's kind of passe now. Like we
Really?
get into a weird spot culturally where it was better for you to manage a social media website than it was to like learn how to be an electrician. Which is
Yeah,
weird.
well, I think that's
My school
changing
still has
rapidly.
that, yeah.
It might be time to go back. Going to need a lot of mechanics, especially when people can't afford any new cars.
Yeah.
Over in California, they are also looking at artificial intelligence, and they are deciding that they need to control every aspect of it.
California lawmaker unveils landmark AI bill, which is basically we don't understand it, but we want to control it.
So they're saying that they must if you are a AI company, I don't know what size you have to be, you must test your AI to their standards, which I don't think they've defined yet, before you can release it into the world.
This AI should have never been released to it scored a 0.3 on the trolley problem. Like, why was this even released to the public?
See, now, if this happens and the whole country adopts it, you'll never get your Lena Khan
Yeah.
chainsawing Tim Cook
Oh.
pictures or video. It's not because it'll never pass, right?
I can't even.
You'll
get
have
it,
to hire a traditional artist for that kind of controversial work.
I can't even get it to make like silhouette rotoscope things because it thinks people might be involved already. Looking at you, Bard.
But get ready. Maybe you want to sit down. Some really good news. I know it's rare. We rarely talk about it, but this is great news.
Reddit does not have to share IP addresses of piracy commenters. Court rules. This is the third case. If this sounds like a repeat, this is the third one, the third
They keep
time.
trying to make it happen.
It's just
Now, these people, to go back, they were not guilty of piracy. I mean, they might have been, but there's no proof of that. What they were guilty of was talking about it on Reddit.
like, how do we do this? Like a conversation, like, for example, I have subscribed and paid for a digital download, and all the terminology for downloading this 4K movie says that I can download the movie and that it is 4K. But when you go to download the movie that you have paid for, not rented, you only get a 1080p copy. You don't get a 4K copy. You can stream a 4K copy, but you can't download a 4K copy. But all of the sales around the thing says you can download it. And so if you go on Reddit and you say, hey, I paid for 4K, it says it's 4K, they're ripping me off because they only let me download 1080p. How can I save the copy of 4K of the movie in 4K that I'm watching? That constitutes piracy according to these people.
I think there were some more egregious examples. Let's not try to pretend that that's all they were doing.
Thin end of the wedge.
And this was a story.
This was hot for a little bit.
That
I saw
harkened
this.
back to the balloons.
Yeah.
It was like intense drama for maybe a day. And then everybody was like, don't worry about it.
GOP warning of national security threat is about Russia wanting nuclear weapons in space to be launched from satellites.
Apparently, I did not know this. They did this once, and then it exploded over Canada, and then Canada had to charge them to clean it up. It's like in the 70s.
The space cleanup?
70s or 80s. No, like the nuclear debris fell to Earth, and it landed in Canada, and Canada had to have them clean it up. I can't remember what the name of it was. It started with a K.
Yeah, so this was one senator who saw something classified, and he was like, oh my God, this is the biggest threat ever. We need to talk about it. And we're still not, I don't think we officially know what it is.
It hasn't been declassified fully yet.
But everybody's like, oh yeah, this is the space nuke thing. And it's not like raining nukes down from space. It's nuking satellites, which seems like overkill.
Yeah.
That's why we have Space Force.
I mean, you could probably just a little mass driver, just poke some holes in it. Why you got to nuke it?
It's way cooler.
That's true. And this is, I think, maybe the third week in a row we get an agreement that has no details and no binding power at all.
Tech companies sign an accord to combat AI-generated election trickery.
It's all the names that you're used to, all the worst.
Adobe, Google, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI, and TikTok. It's a nothing burger.
Except these companies are not going to be working with governments directly, which is not a nothing burger. That's a poison burger.
The slowly boiling frog.
And here's a little, not as good a news because this is not final or anything, but here's a little glimmer of hope.
The Ars Technica headline is "Backdoors that let cops decrypt messages violate human rights," EU court says. Yeah, it's because the reasoning wasn't great. It said that they have other means to get at the messages, and that's true. But that's the good old-fashioned police work thing that we often lean on. It's like, hey, if you have somebody suspected of doing crimes, use traditional police methods
It's
to
a
figure it out.
great old-fashioned police work. But if you're thinking, hey, doesn't that directly violate a lot of these new things that the EU countries are doing? Yes.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a showdown there.
Their heart's in the right place, though, because they did recognize that building these weaknesses into systems mean that it can be exploited by criminals. Because think about, iPhones that have been compromised, those theoretically don't have a backdoor, but there has been shown to exist very long-lived, persistent backdoors that are controlled by governments and commercial entities on iPhones, and there's very little that can be done to stop it comprehensively.
Governments and commercial entities who are made up of criminals in some cases.
So if there was a deliberate backdoor there, then you're going to build in that kind of access all the time, and you're not going to have great transparency into who's using it.
But if you're excited about that headline, temper your expectations, because even when we get a win in these kinds of things, you know, the level that they're working at here, it's not always a win going forward, because over time the companies can kind of whittle away at it and just, you know, massage it. Once again, just shave off just enough to get this.
Apple's iMessage avoids EU Digital Markets Act regulation. Just barely. This is an amazing amount of maneuvering on Apple's part. I can't believe they pulled it off.
And bribing, probably. Probably some bribes.
So, yeah. The blue bubbles will persist.
Until morale improves.
And morale is low. But they will have to make some concessions on the old EU front, because they have, the new thing does control some of the things that they weren't able to beat this one.
Apple confirms iOS 17.4 removes home screen web apps in the EU. Here's why, from 9 to 5 Mac. This article, even though it's a little annoyed, but it's too apologist. It's got too many points in the apologist thing.
Well, it's 9 to 5 Mac.
Yeah, they kind of depend on it.
Yeah.
Apple is doing the malicious compliance thing with the EU ruling. So if you have a website that you've installed as an app on your phone, meaning you go to the website and there's like you add to home screen, it's a pretty cool feature. You can add the website with no browser Chrome. You get an icon on your home screen, you touch it, and it's a web browser, but it doesn't give you a URL, brar, and some other crap that takes up screen real estate. And it's a website, and it works really well. This is in Apple's case with Epic. Apple said you don't need App Store stuff because web apps are basically functional enough. And here they are just a few weeks later, and they have severely curtailed the website as an app functionality deliberately to annoy people. And it's like, oh, we're just doing what the EU said. It's like, yeah, but the most ham-fisted, dumb way possible.
Well, over in London, which is not the EU, they have a Facebook case. And here's the question. If you were already a Facebook user, I guess even if you weren't, and Facebook comes along and says, oh, hey, by the way, we're stealing all your data. We're selling it. We're tracking everything that you do. You either let us do that or you leave. Is that fair?
Facebook $3 billion legal action, or £3 billion legal action, given the go-ahead in London. So in London, they're saying, well, maybe it's not quite take it or leave it. It should be something other than take it or leave it.
I don't know where I stand on that one. I mean, it's not that hard not to use Facebook, although it is getting worse and worse because so many businesses
Just use Facebook and it paywalls you off.
It's so bad.
Paywall. It's account wall.
Oh, you're paying.
Yeah, with my data. But I need to look at all the weird trash on Marketplace.
And if you want to see the worst parts of what's coming, probably for all of us, when all these online bills get rolled out, we only need to look toward Italy.
Italy's new piracy shield has just gone into operation, and it's already harming human rights there. This is because people want to watch cricket, which is sad.
And to stop them from watching
like
cricket,
my cat.
I'm sure they'd love to watch some cricket videos.
Maybe not.
To stop them from doing that, they are literally just memory holing anything that is reported. And as usual, like DMCA, there's no review period. There's no, you don't get to dispute it. It just has to happen immediately. What is it, 24 hours?
Yeah.
Some of it I think might be 30 minutes. And it's not just at the DNS level. VPNs have to follow this too. So one VPN, you remember which one it was? AirVPN. They just noped out. They're like, we're done in Italy. We're not playing your games. Which I understand. And France has had enough. There's an unfortunate, maybe fortunate, maybe unfortunate. I mean, this is overreach, but it's the kind of overreach that I think everybody can get behind because
Yeah.
it's so annoying.
City has banned scrolling on your phone in smartphone in public. And that is CN Port, France. So the French are just like, no, we've had enough of people wandering around on their phone. Stop it.
If you had to guess what nationality would do that first, for some reason I feel like France is the one to do that because they have all the rules about their language too.
When I saw the headline in the news article, I thought it was going to be a Middle Eastern country. I'm surprised that it was France.
Oh,
But here's the thing. Cienport, it's not a national law, so they can't enforce it.
so it's just
Yeah. But they are encouraging all businesses to post, kind of like, like firearms. If they put up a thing, then you're trespassing if you come in with a firearm. So they could possibly, I don't know what French trespassing law is like, this is for the U.S., but potentially if you're scrolling and they have a sign out, they can throw you out. And you could be arrested if you don't leave. And there's going to be some fun videos of French Karens. What's French for Karen?
Karen. Can't do that accent.
And the governments, I think it's fair to say, have no idea how to engage with the youth of our country. I'm not saying that I do.
It's not this.
But it's that's true. But I think I have more of a handle on them than the governments do. So, as usual, they outsource it.
Sky News brings us this amazing headline. The Home Office is to pay influencers to post on TikTok, urging migrants not to cross the channel. And also, in other news, to also mind the gap.
They're like flossing and they're like, it's terrible here in Britain. Actually, I don't think anyone flosses anymore, but.
Yeah, they show their like $75 dinner. And it's like, oh, look what don't come here. It's awful.
Oh, I hate it.
I just got my nails done. Look at them. It's terrible here. And moving over to India, they've rolled out some laws. If you recall, India, they kind of like, yeah, you know what? We're going to do the whole like online stuff and we're going to revolutionize it. We're going to welcome people in. And these big companies came in and they were like, yes, we will dominate everything. And India was like, oh, hang on.
Whoa.
We feel like you're moving too fast. And now that's happening in the payment section.
India stumped on how to cut phone PE and Google dominance in payments. Yeah, turns out.
Because it's like most of the market share. Everybody's using this. And they're like, whoa. So I think their rule is you can't have more than 30% of the market share as a foreign payment processor. But it's already too late. And they don't really have a good plan on replacing it.
Lena Khan had a point.
How do you stop monopolies before they get started if they gestate in another country?
Well, India would have to attack the problem by building a parallel system to handle payments on a national scale. So they would have to have something that their local and national banks could subscribe to. I
think they did. It was like PT Pay or something like that. They have something, but it's not going to get it done for whatever reason.
I have a feeling that
maybe adoption rate. Maybe everyone just uses the others already.
It seems like a central bank digital currency is what is going to come out of that.
Well, there's a problem with that because the Indian government, and let's be fair, eventually every government in the world is going to control the central bank digital currency, and then you can see where that's going to go based on this headline.
Indian government moves to ban Proton Mail, yes, all the Proton Mail, after bomb threat.
Would they do that to Gmail? Because it seems like they wouldn't do that to Gmail.
Well, Gmail doesn't have the protections that Proton Mail does. So, like, Gmail would just hand over everything to the Indian government. They're like, oh, yeah, you want that guy's ad profile? Here you go.
It's probably still a dead end, though, which is the irony.
So, yeah, somebody did they're blaming the gun here, but they're saying, like, oh, we don't want to play with that. It was, you're out. You either give us all the information or you're done. And here's a follow-up, which I think that our presumptions were correct based on this.
The 404 headline is leaked emails show Hugo Awards self-censoring to appease China. Yep, we said that.
I think everyone said that. I don't think anyone's surprised by that even a little.
Well, here's the emails.
That needs to be highlighted to determine if it's safe to put on the ballot. Why wouldn't it be safe? Somebody going to arrest you? Maybe you should write a book about that. Do you see the close button?
Put in admin at.
Oh, it's over here. Oh. Left-hand close button? What? Seattle Times? What are you thinking? That's a dark pattern for sure. Right.
And it was very pale gray. Not accessibility good.
And over in Australia, they actually do have some like workers' rights laws over there. At least on paper. If you're an Australian, chime in. Is it really as good as people claim that it is? Because this one seems valid.
Australia introduces workers' right to disconnect. Basically, they're off the clock. You can't harass them by email or pager, or if they're
phone.
If they're on call, that's a paid thing that they're on call.
That should be how it is, but
Yeah.
And here we have a little bit of a scaremongering story. I worry that this is just tiptoeing more toward the California rule of like, yes, government must regulate all artificial intelligence.
Microsoft says U.S. rivals are beginning to use generative AI in offensive cyber operations. Oh no, the photorealistic Will Smith spaghetti is coming for us.
or they just flood social media with, here's a video of your senator doing something terrible.
They kind of pointed out a who's who. We got North Korea, Kim Suki, Iran's Revolutionary Guard, Russian GRU, Aquatic Panda, Maverick Panda. China's got 2 entries. And they're basically saying that they've seen who they believe to be these people with like ChatGPT style accounts actually looking up stuff. They were all banned, but not before they got the information.
It'll be funny if we have a counterintelligence operation feeding them info. It's like, you know what would really disrupt day-to-day life in America? Videos of Will Smith eating spaghetti.
I think I could handle that. Now, usually I'll give you a
Someone
pro
watched a
criminal.
Marcus Brown video this week.
Normally I'll give you a pro criminal tip, but today it's not me. It's Tom's Hardware.
Wi-Fi jamming to knock out cameras suspected in 9 Minnesota burglaries. Smart security systems are vulnerable as tech becomes cheaper and easier to acquire. Also, as we've always said on all of the videos that we've ever done on any of the Internet of Things video, even your software-defined radio, video, and everything, don't use wireless. Just don't do it.
And these days you don't even have to set up your own software-defined radio by plugging it into a laptop. You got the Flipper Zero.
Yeah, it's like you can steal all the codes for things. You can just keep setting somebody's alarm off and creating false alarms, and the police stop coming. Like that's been true since the 80s.
And this is not a high-power attack. It's more of a denial-of-service attack. And so they have, in the wild, seen people shut them down, especially porch pirates.
Yeah.
Porch pirates have just like a cloak of invisibility now.
That just seems like it's so much effort for what could be just random crap in a box.
I got an Amazon package and I went out to, like, I got the picture in my email and I went to get it and it was gone. And I was like, did I get pirated? But it was just heavy wind.
We have had some crazy wind events lately.
And we now know a little bit more about this Bank of America data leak. As usual, it's supply chain. But does that really make it better?
Infosys subsidiary named as source of the Bank of America data leak. Okay.
That is, Bank of America is outsourcing your data to India. And they're not protecting it. What a
No
shocker.
surprise there.
And, we're having some hard economic times. There are some things that are always winners in bad economic times. Vices, usually alcohol, prostitution, and gambling. But you might want to worry about your gambling app.
World's biggest casino app exposed customers' personal data. Yeah. Remember that thing that shut down all of Las Vegas for a couple of weeks?
WinStar. But, well, this was not that. This was just somebody didn't put a password on a database.
Yeah, no. It's just, this is like, I don't know that these are all related, but they're probably all related.
And speaking of those Indian companies that might be a little unscrupulous, there was one here that was very unscrupulous. And a lot of the websites that we use here that we report news from were victims of them because they reported on the truth. And then this happened.
The EFF helps news organizations push back against illegal bullying from a cyber mercenary group. Basically, this group didn't want to be in the news, and they were India-based, and so they would create all sorts of legal headaches for these sites in India. And it's like, hey, that wasn't true. Come to India and prove what you're saying is true. And it's like, well, but all of this stuff, like it is intrinsically true from the information that's available.
But I don't want to go to India.
Appen was the name of this company. They were like hacker for hire, but they also did some valid services. So they were able to manipulate the Indian court system. And so now the EFF is going to contribute to legal funds and try to help these people who were victimized by that. But they immediately took it all down. They're like, oh, we don't even want to be a part of this madness. And if you want a little bit more privacy, maybe get away from the normal browsers. There is a new one that's getting more features rapidly.
DuckDuckGo's browser adds encrypted, privacy-minded syncing and backup. So you can keep your bookmarks in sync without a cloud service that you trust, which is amazing.
No account. It's just either codes or QRs, like text codes or QR codes to switch from one another. That way, you don't have to have an account with them. That's nice.
I haven't tried DuckDuckGo's browser yet. I do use their search engine.
That might be a convenient way to sort the news stories.
Oh, yeah.
And a new problem in the Apple world, and it's pretty extreme. This is one of those security headlines where it's like, oh, what? But then, like, you really have to, like, you have to fall for so much before this gets you that it's only going to affect the worst users.
Tom's Guide is the headline is first ever iOS Trojan discovered, and it's stealing facial recognition data to break into bank accounts. So this is something that tricks you into sideloading a test application on your iPhone. It's malware ported from Android. There's probably not a lot of threat here. This isn't the same vector that a lot of the other Apple spyware that we reported on uses, but it's just a matter of time. So this is not going to be surreptitiously installed from a text message. You're going to have to do a lot of work, but if you have an old person thoroughly convinced to do this, walking them through this is apparently a thing.
If you could convince somebody to go to a Bitcoin ATM and put cash in it,
Yeah.
I mean, you can probably convince them to do this. And we still see more and more of this obvious problem. Think about all the problems that our government is currently working on. And they're not dealing with this one. Why? Because they benefit from it greatly.
Broker sold Planned Parenthood visitor location data to pro-life group, Senator says. Which is about the worst, most despicable thing you could do. Seems like that would be protected under HIPAA.
Cops do it. Why not everybody else?
Why is it not already protected under HIPAA? Like, why is that not a thing?
Well, it's just your location. They don't even know if you went in.
Sucks to suck if you're just going for your routine pap smear.
Or like maybe you're delivering a package or some food. You're just a DoorDash driver.
Yeah,
And all of
you're a
sudden-
spouse to someone in the building. I
then
mean,
a pro-lifer burns your house down.
I just needed to get the results of my pap smear.
And Krista, this may affect you.
Oh.
You should look into it. You got to change your password.
200,000 Facebook Marketplace user records leaked on hacking forums.
Tragic.
We've actually had some news articles about really insane, crazy stuff that Krista has found on the Facebook Marketplace.
I find strange things on the marketplace all the time. There was a guy a week ago. He had 4 or 5, like, legitimate, I think, Roman style helmets for sale. And he was charging $150 a piece for them. He's like, I can't keep them anymore.
I can't remember what the name of those are. Is it one with the crest on
Yeah,
it?
he had one like that, and then he had just different types of helmets.
Cool.
He modeled all of them.
If
in the
those were
photos.
genuine, they would be worth.
Yeah, they're not. I think they're like recreations.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he's like a home guy who just does it for fun, but he was selling them on Marketplace. Nearby, too.
Unlike the UK, it's just like, oh, I found some Roman coins in a field. It's like, around here?
Where did that come from?
I don't think so.
No, they're definitely like recreations, but
I'm not even selling that on Marketplace. I'm melting those. None of this like, oh, it needs to go back to the originals. No. That's going to be a 5-ounce bar.
anyway, chat. Is that it? Was that the last story?
That's the last
That's
story.
the last story. We're leaving now to go find our cursor. Goodbye!